I'm Dr. Jessica. My husband, Dr. Phil, and I opened this practice a little over 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. Before that, we'd been working for other people. I was working up in Concord. My husband was working down in Nashua. Then we decided that we really wanted to have our own practice, and we started one together here, which has been awesome. We really, really love it. All right, let's get started. Oh, I also didn't tell you, well, we'll get to it in a minute. We're going to go over some exercises, but this is entirely a participatory class, so I'm going to be asking you some questions too about a lot of things of what you think about health, okay? So this first one here, I have folders for everybody, and I'm going to hand those out now. There's a bunch of different things in there. The first thing is the ergonomics at the computer, okay? There's a sheet in there. It's got 2 pages. Don't let it overwhelm you. There's a ton of information on there. A lot of people who work in offices, if you're working at a computer all the time, it's on the right-hand side there, the gray, it's got a picture of the person on there. Hopefully, if you're in a place where you work at a computer, hopefully someone's gone through and looked at the situation and hopefully made it a little ergonomically sound. Most of the time people are shaking their heads like, oh my gosh, no. That's okay. Usually the worst offenders are the home office because you're kind of going with what you got, and a lot of times, things are totally mismatched, and that's okay. What this packet will show you is so many things that you can do to make your workstation better, okay? So don't let it overwhelm you by thinking you have to do everything on that sheet, but any changes that you can make to your workstation is obviously going to be an improvement. Some of the biggies are making sure your monitor is at an appropriate height. Well, first and foremost, that it's in front of you, okay? Unfortunately, I still see, especially in reception areas, you'll see a monitor off to the side and someone, doing the keyboard over here. It's like, this for 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for 20 years. I mean, how's that going to be? That's going to be trouble. So make sure that the monitor's in front of you, preferably about 30 degrees down from your gaze, okay? And if you have a keyboard that's at an appropriate height where you can really be working all in this plane, that things are not up too high or under a folded up desk, or those desk keyboard things, you got to make sure that they're pulled out when you're using them. Chair height, making sure that, especially the armrests, if you have adjustable armrests on your chair, that is for a reason. Adjust them. A lot of times if you have them up too high, you're going to be holding your shoulders up, okay? And if they're too low, it's going to be constantly pulling on your neck muscles, okay? So make sure it's at just enough so you can comfortably let your arms relax and have them be right on the armrest, okay? A foot, like a footstool, okay? Anything that's angled up, and you can make this so very easily, but they do sell them also. It's something where your foot can be up, just sitting up at an angle. That takes a lot of pressure off your back, okay? What else? There's a whole bunch of things on there. But again, just any changes that you're not going to be able to do everything on the sheet. You're going to say, I can't do that with my workstation. That's fine. Do what you can. It just makes it a lot easier. The number one thing with working at a computer for any length of time is going to be frequent breaks. Okay, that's the most important thing that you can do for yourself is after, and when I say frequent, I mean at least every 30 minutes, if not every 15 minutes. And this doesn't have to be a long break. We're not talking about going out and getting, lunch and coming back, but literally just stand up, walk around your cubicle or your desk, or just take 2 steps in place and sit back down. It resets your body's positioners, your proprioceptors, and allows you to continue on a little bit. Because a lot of people will try to, let's say if you're, you're sitting up, and after a while at the computer, you start to do this, and you're like, by the end you notice you're like 2 inches from the screen. If you try to sit up real straight and try to do it all over again, that's good, but not great, because you quickly will tend to go back into this position. Whereas if you stand up, take a couple steps, and sit back down, that actually will make a much, much bigger difference for you, okay? What's up next? There's some neck stretches in there, okay? Now when we're doing neck stretches, really, really important, the ones that you see on there, you're gonna say, oh, those are so stupidly easy. they're meant to be, okay? When you're doing neck stretches, you really want to be doing very, very basic stretches, okay? A lot of people want to get a quote-unquote good stretch, and they start combining motions and getting as far as they can get, and it's really unadvisable. Our joints were not meant to be stressed in those planes, okay? So when you're doing a neck stretch, you want to be doing it in one plane of motion at a time. So whether it's forward and then back, or from side to side, okay? Or turning. You're just doing one. You're not turning and bending and trying to get a good stretch out of it. That usually causes trouble, okay? The postural exercises in there. There's a sheet that has a whole bunch of diagrams of guys doing all sorts of silly stuff, okay? Those are postural exercises. A lot of people, when we're talking about posture, a lot of people are like, oh, you know, I try to stand up straight, try to sit up straight. That's all well and good, but it's actually a lot more important for your posture is strengthening the appropriate muscles, okay? That's actually a lot more important than trying to sit up straight, because while you're doing that, if you don't have the appropriate muscles straightened, you're always trying to sit up straight, and it's really an effort and it's not comfortable. But if you strengthen the appropriate muscles, it actually becomes very easy for you to stand up or sit up straight. You could do pretty much any of those on those sheets are pretty good, but the most important, the ones that I usually specifically prescribe for most people with postural stuff, are the ones down the middle, numbers 6, 7, and 8, I believe it is. The eagle, let's see, it's the eagle, the hummingbird, and the butterfly. So with the eagle, what they're having you do, now these are all designed to strengthen the muscles, okay, between the shoulder blades. So that first one, your arms are down at your sides, palms in, okay? When you take a big deep breath, arms come up to your side, over your head, palms facing out, okay? And as you exhale, bring them back down. All right, very simple, but pay attention, you know, we're trying to be as upright as possible, okay? And then back down. And meanwhile, you're standing up nice and tall when you do this, okay? And you should be feeling it between the shoulder blades. So on that fifth, you do this one 5 times, and on the 5th one, when you come down, you bring your shoulders down to about 90 degrees and 90 degrees, okay? And then you're just making small circles with your hands. Meanwhile, again, I'm holding between the muscles between the shoulder blades. I'm just making small circles, okay? And this one's called the hummingbird. And then from there, you can bring the hands behind the head, being careful that you're not pushing the neck forward, standing up nice and straight. You're going to squeeze between the shoulder blades back, holding for 5 seconds, and then relax it, and then doing that again, okay? So they're not complex, they're very easy, but you will, especially if you have, I had poor posture as a child, and these are ones that I still do on a regular basis, because you always need to be regularly strengthening. Just like any other exercise program, once you get there, you don't stop, okay? These are really good maintenance exercises for your posture, okay? And the rest, most people are good to do the rest on that sheet. If you have any questions about that, please ask us if you're not sure if any of those are appropriate for you.